to Crowforest Reviews. So this year, I thought I'd talk about everyone's favorite Nightmare on Elm Street sequel, A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. Why this one? Well, because it features miniatures and model work, from the papier-mâché house to the clay stop-motion Freddy Krueger. So, this is Nightmare on Elm Street 3. So after the psychedelic old New Line Cinema logo and the obligatory dream quote, the movie starts right in on the aforementioned papier-mâché house. This is actually one of the major reasons why I wanted to do a review of this movie. Obviously, I already have kind of a thing for miniatures, as you can tell from my everything. And this miniature house looks absolutely incredible. When I first saw this movie, I wanted to make this house for myself. And on top of that, the way that the sequence is shot is just absolutely incredible. So after that, we get our obligatory creepy kids jump roping scene. This time taking place in front of the papier-mâché house, which morphs into the real house. This sequence is incredibly creepy, upping the ante from the previous two movies' jump roping scenes, the crescendo building to the climax of what was supposed to be the final installment of the planned trilogy. But, of course, this movie ended up making so much money that they ended up making a ton of movies after this one, for better or for worse. Anyway, Kristen goes into the house and gets chased by Freddy, eventually ending up in a room filled with his murder victims. She screams and wakes up in bed, but shock of all shocks, she's not really awake yet. Freddy attacks her in the bathroom and cuts her wrists, but when her mother finds her, Kristen is holding a razor blade, suggesting that Freddy made her cut herself in her sleep, even though that's really not in line with how he did things in the previous movies, but oh well, we needed an excuse to get her into the mental hospital. Her mother naturally thinks that Kristen cut her own wrists, which, yeah, if you don't know about the Dream Demon, that does seem like the most likely explanation. So she sends Kristen off to the mental hospital for treatment. Then, at the hospital, Kristen gets a surprise visit from Nancy, the survivor of the first film. Most of the staff don't believe the kids about Freddy the Dream Demon, so Nancy got a job there so that the kids would have an advocate who would actually believe them, having gone through the same thing herself. Nancy goes to Kristen's house to talk to her mother, and while she's there, she comes across Kristen's papier-mâché house, which is actually the house that Nancy grew up in, and where she was attacked by Freddy Krueger in the first movie. While Nancy is looking at the house, Kristen falls asleep at the mental hospital. She gets up out of her bed, sees a bloody tricycle melt, and then suddenly she's in the papier-mâché house. As you do? The house starts falling apart all around her, and then she's attacked by Freddy Krueger in snake form. Kristen calls out to Nancy, and somehow manages to pull her into the dream. Nancy immediately recognizes Freddy, and she runs away, pulling Kristen along with her. They wake up, but Nancy has a cut on her hand, so she knows that it wasn't just a dream. Nancy goes to the mental hospital to talk to Kristen, and she takes the papier-mâché house along with her. Nancy tells Kristen that she used to live in that house, and Kristen tells Nancy that she's always had the ability to bring people into her dreams. Nancy and Kristen go to the group therapy session along with the other victims. Later that night, we cut to two of the kids in their bedroom after lights out, and they take turns keeping watch, with a pact that the one on watch will wake the sleeping one at the first sign of trouble. After a brief cutaway in which Nancy is denied a prescription for Hypnosil, a dream suppressant, we cut to another two of the kids in their bedroom, but they're both asleep, having apparently not made a pact to watch each other's backs. One of the kids' puppets morphs into Freddy Krueger via this incredible stop-motion clay effect. And then Freddy slices the kid's arms and legs open, and uses his veins and arteries as puppet strings, and starts walking him down the hall as this horrific living puppet. And then Freddy takes him out to the balcony and slices through the puppet strings, causing him to fall to his death in this over-the-top ironic killing. Because Freddy's killings are always ironic, taking something that his victim liked in life and using it to kill them. The other two kids see what's happening and try to stop it, waking everyone up, but it's too late. And to make matters worse, no one could see Freddy or the puppet strings, so the doctors think that this was just some horrible sleepwalking accident, despite the fact that the kid would have had to walk through several locked doors to get to the balcony. But at least this latest incident has convinced one of the doctors to write the prescription for Hypnosil, but that doesn't stop the other doctor from prescribing sedatives, not believing the kids when they say that that's a death sentence. One of the kids tries to stay awake in the TV room all night, even burning herself with a cigarette to stay awake, but it doesn't work. She sees Freddy on the TV and walks towards it. Then Freddy pops out of the TV, grabs her with mechanical arms that sprout out of the sides, and slams her into the TV, thus ironically killing her, since she said earlier in the movie that she wanted to be a TV star. Later, at the girl's funeral, one of the doctors comes across a ghost nun, which I guess is a bit of a spoiler to tell you that she's a ghost nun, but it is pretty obvious. I mean, she's wearing white and everything, and it's a well-known fact that when a nun dies, her black habit turns white. That's just science.
Sister
Mary Helena.
Well, I was close. I was going to guess Sister Mary Creepy Eyes. Nancy calls the doctor away, and then suddenly Sister Mary Creepy Eyes is no longer standing there, almost as if she had been dead the whole time. But that couldn't be right. Later that night, Nancy and the doctor are talking about their patients.
Nothing makes any sense.
You're being a little harsh there. The script isn't that incomprehensible. Later, in group therapy, Nancy comes clean about being a former victim of Freddy Krueger herself. And thus we get a training montage, wherein everyone falls asleep so that they can try out their new fancy dream powers. They all fall asleep, but before they know they're asleep, one of the kids wanders off, following a nurse who I'm sure could not possibly be Freddy Krueger in disguise. But I'm sure that's not important. Meanwhile, back with the others, they finally realize that they're asleep, and they start playing around with their dream powers. Then, back with the kid and the nurse. Ew. But on the plus side, Freddy Krueger has an amazing rack.
What's wrong, Joey? Feeling tongue-tied?
Boo! Boo! So Freddy Krueger opens a portal to hell under the kid's bed, which is ironic because the kid wanted to go to hell? Okay, I have no idea how this one's supposed to be ironic, but he is technically just in a coma, so maybe comas don't have to be ironic. Then, to make matters worse, Nancy and her doctor friend are fired, since the higher-ups are blaming them for what happened. Which is just ridiculous. It's not like they opened a portal to hell in the hospital. Oh, right. Well, it is a hospital. Odds are pretty good it already had a portal to hell in it. The doctor goes to visit Sister Mary Creepy Eyes, the ghost nun, who drops a massive exposition dump about Freddy Krueger's mother, referring to her in the third person, despite the fact that she's her. Which, yes, that's to keep it a surprise for later, but come on, it's pretty obvious. Without Nancy to protect the kids, things at the hospital are quickly going to shit, with patients justifiably freaking out about the now forced sedatives. Nancy goes to see her father to ask him where Freddy Krueger is buried, in order to salt and burn the bones, and hopefully kill him in the dream world, which I'm sure will totally work and will not result in any more sequels. The hospital calls the doctor, or rather, they page him and he calls them.
That's the hospital.
Is that how phones used to work? Seems needlessly complicated. Anyway, one of the kids at the hospital tells the doctor that Kristen has been sedated and put in the isolation room. This information naturally makes him go up and punch Nancy's father, before proceeding to steal a candle from a church. What? Makes sense to me. Nancy goes to the hospital to see Kristen, but they won't let her into Kristen's isolation room. But Nancy does manage to talk herself into the group therapy room to see the others. Then we cut back to the doctor and Nancy's father breaking into the junkyard where Freddy Krueger is buried. Breaking into a junkyard in the middle of the night with a kidnapped drunk person and a stolen church candle to fight an undead serial killer? What could possibly go wrong? But we'll have to hold off on learning the answer to that question, because we quickly cut back to Nancy and the Dream Warriors, who enter Kristen's dream and are immediately attacked by Freddy Krueger. And then the movie starts over again. Wait, what? What just happened? This can't be a dream. They were already in a dream. Unless this is a dream within a dream. Maybe this is a dream within a dream.
I said, where's the fucking bourbon?
Yeah, it's a dream within a dream. Kristen falls down the stairs and once again ends up back in Nancy's old house, the one that she made the papier-mâché model of. The other Dream Warriors have all been separated at this point, but they still hear Kristen scream, and they try to fight their way back to her. Even though they're in separate dreams at this point, but they're still connecting dreams. I guess it's like having dreams with connecting doors. Freddy kills the drug addict girl with an overdose of drugs, and then he tries to kill the wheelchair kid with a nightmare wheelchair. But Wheelchair Kid remembers that he has dream powers and fights back. Nancy and one of the other kids find Kristen, but none of the others made it. Then they find another portal to hell, this one featuring a convenient spiral staircase. Back with the doctor and Nancy's father, they find Freddy Krueger's bones in a bag under a car hood, and they get ready to burn it. Meanwhile, in hell, Nancy and the others find Coma Kid, who's still hanging over the portal to, lower hell. And they fight their way past Freddy to try and rescue him. But Freddy's too strong for them, revealing that he gets stronger with every murder, having absorbed the souls of his victims. But before Freddy can finish them off, he leaves to go deal with Nancy's father and the doctor, via this rather unfortunate effect that didn't age particularly well. And he kills Nancy's father. Freddy returns to Nancy and the others, attacking them in the Hall of Mirrors, but one of the kids screams and shatters the mirrors, freeing everyone. They think it's all over, and Nancy's father shows up to congratulate them, but I have a bad feeling about this. Yeah, I saw that coming. Nancy manages to stab Freddy with one of his own claws, and the doctor finally manages to set Freddy's bones on fire, finishing him off once and for all. Because this is the last movie. Freddy Krueger will never be coming back again. Then the doctor learns the shocking truth about the identity of the ghost nun. It turns out that she was Freddy Krueger's mother the whole time. I did not see that coming. And then the movie ends with a light coming on inside the papier-mâché house, suggesting that it's not over yet. Even though it was supposed to be. So I guess they wanted to leave the door open for possible sequels just in case. Yeah, that turned out to be a good idea. So that was A Nightmare on Elm Street 3. How was it? That was really good. This movie is a classic for a reason, really earning its place as the most beloved of the Elm Street sequels. I already went over this movie's superb aesthetic before, but it bears repeating. The cinematography and model work of this movie are absolutely amazing. A few unfortunate shots notwithstanding. So, if you somehow haven't seen this one before, you should definitely check it out. And now, since it's Halloween, I'm going to show you the official trailer for In the Attic, my new horror movie. Coming soon. Probably not to theaters near you, but we'll see. But, coming soon.
Is anybody up here? Hello? What in the world? What the hell?
Nancy is looking at the house, Kristen falls asleep at the mental hospital. She gets up out of her bed, sees a bloody tricycle melt. I saw a bloody tricycle melt. No, seriously, it was a tricycle covered in blood and it bloody melted.